In this video, I'll be showing you how to replace the CV axles on a car. A common problem that CV axles have is that the rubber boots on them break. The rubber boots contain grease. This grease is used to lubricate bearings and other moving parts inside the joints. When the boots break, the grease escapes and contaminants such as water and dirt are able to get into the moving parts. Lack of lubrication and exposure to contaminants cause the joints to become weak over time and eventually break. This will make your car unable to move, so it's best to fix the problem as soon as the broken boot is discovered. It's possible to replace broken boots, but it's usually easiest to just replace the whole CV axle. I'll now show you how to do that. One end of the CV axle goes into the transmission, so the next thing you'll need to do is either drain out the transmission fluid or transmission oil. To do that on my car, I have a drain plug down here that has a 3/8 inch square in it, which is the perfect size for a 3/8 inch ratchet. Alright, so now I'm just going to let all the transmission oil drain out, and once that's done I'll put the drain plug back in. Now we're going to jack the front end of the vehicle up. So you should first make sure that you're on level ground. You should make sure that your emergency brake is applied, and you should make sure that your rear wheels are chalked. As you can see, I used pieces of cinder blocks to chalk my wheels. This is just as a safety precaution to prevent the car from rolling back. Next thing you should do is loosen up your lug nuts, and then we'll jack up the vehicle and remove the wheel. Now that the wheel's off, the next step is to remove this nut. To remove this nut, you'll have to have someone step on your brake so that your spindle isn't free to spin like this. And for my car, I used a 1/2 inch ratchet with a 32mm socket to get the nut off. Alright, now that the nut's off, the next step is to take the castle nut off of the ball joint that's down here. The castle nut is held on by a cotter pin, so I'm going to remove the cotter pin and then I'll be able to loosen the nut. Alright, now that the nut's off, the next step is to separate the ball joint from the lower control arm. You can get a special tool called a ball joint separator, and that's the best kind of tool to use because it doesn't damage the boot or the ball joint. You can also get a tool like this, which is a pickle fork. The problem with pickle forks is that they damage the rubber boot and they can also damage the ball joint. In my case, I'm replacing my ball joints, so it doesn't really matter, so I'm just going to use this to separate the ball joint from the lower control arm. Alright, now I'm going to remove the damper fork. To do that, I'm going to take the bolt down here off, and it has a bolt right here I need to remove. now that that's off, next thing I'm going to do is hammer this out of the hub, and then the axle will be detached. Alright, we have one end of the axle detached, so now we just have to detach the other end. The other end is pretty easy to take out usually. It has this little clip at the end of it which fits into the transmission and locks the axle in there. So basically what we have to do is we have to pry the axle away from the transmission. This can be done with a large flathead screwdriver or a pry bar. This is where the axle fits into the transmission. So basically what we got to do, take the flathead and just pry carefully, and eventually we'll feel it pop out, and then we can just pull the axle right out. And when you do this, be careful that the axle doesn't fall on you. Make sure that you have a good grip of the axle when you pull it out. Alright, now we got the clip out, so we can go ahead and pull the axle out. Some oil may come out, so we'll also bring the drain pan over just in case. Alright, now the axle's out, so we can go ahead and put in a new one. Alright, before we put the axle into the transmission, we have to make sure it's nice and clean and oiled. So I'm going to take the rag, wipe the end real good, and then I'm going to use the transmission oil I'm going to be putting in the transmission, and just spread it all along the part of the axle that's going to be going in the transmission. Now I need to clean the seal that's on the transmission where this is going to be going into, and apply fresh oil on that also. Alright, now we're going to fit the new axle into the transmission. So, let's put it in, move it around. Alright, now we got to snap the clip in place, and to do that you can either hammer the opposite side of the axle, or in my case there's some play on the shaft, and I usually just usually just push the shaft back and forth and it'll pop it into place. And now the new axle's in. Alright, now I can go ahead and fit the other end of the axle into the hub. So to do that, I'm first going to clean where the axle is going to go. And then I'm going to apply a very, very thin coat of grease. This will help the new axle to slide in and prevent the axle from rusting in the future. Alright, now I'm gonna fit the ball joint back into the lower control arm. Now we can go ahead and put on the damper fork. So first we'll put it into position. And get up there. And put bolts in here. We can go ahead and put the bolts through the damper fork and attach it to the control arm. Right. And I'm first going to tighten the bolt up here. And when we tighten this bolt, we want to make sure that we push the damper fork up. I'm going to be pushing up on the hub and everything with my feet, my legs, so we don't want any space when we tighten it. Alright, after that I'm going to go ahead and tighten this bottom bolt, and then what you should do is you should go ahead and tighten this nut down here for the ball joint, and it has a hole in the ball joint bolt which is for the cotter pin, and this has a certain torque specification that you should torque it to. Once you have it torqued to that, if the cotter pin hole does not line up with the grooves on the castle nut, then you just tighten it more until it lines up. You should never loosen the nut below torque specification to get it to line up. So once it's in, just like that. Alright, and then the nut for the axle also has a torque specification that should be followed, and after that you should smash in the nut up here by this groove in the axle so that it'll prevent it from spinning out. Alright, I'm gonna hit it in a little more, and then that'll be it. So the next thing after that would be to go ahead and put on your wheel, lower the car, and you could go ahead and put in your transmission fluid or oil, and then you'll be done. So I hope this video helped you, and thanks for watching.